This is the story of an American man in his 60s who, after building a successful business and dedicating himself to volunteer work in Ethiopia, finds new love with a local African woman in her 20s. And what happens when she becomes pregnant? Before we dive in, please hit that subscribe button and give us a thumbs up. It really helps our channel. The bustling streets of Addis Ababa, Ethiopia's capital, teemed with tens of thousands of people. The air thick with the unique heat and aroma of the place. Situated at an altitude of over 2.300 meters, 7.500 feet. The city, surrounded by green mountains, presented a captivating blend of the strikingly foreign and the deeply mystical. About an hour away lay the small town of Debre Zayat, famous for its tranquil lakes. It was in this beautiful landscape that John Harrison, an alias, an American elder, had made his home for over a decade. Despite being well into his 60s, John always wore a neat, practical shirt and moved with a spry energy. In his early 50s, back in the States, he had suddenly lost his wife, and for a long time afterward, he'd lost his will to live, drifting aimlessly. His children were all grown and living on their own, and he gradually lost touch with his friends. Only the memories of his wife haunted him daily. Then, one day, a longtime business acquaintance suggested they work together in Africa. Initially, he accepted, seeing it merely as an escape. But as time passed, Ethiopia revealed itself as a land of new opportunities and hope. Recognizing the rich local resources and potential, John started a small import-export business. It gradually prospered, and once he was successfully established, he used funds from his business and part of the assets he'd brought from the US to contribute to the village's development and engage in volunteer work. As if to overcome the void left by his wife, he kept himself busy, shuttling between his office and the village every morning. He supported efforts to improve educational environments for young children and supplement inadequate drinking water facilities. He always carried the sentiment, "Let me use the life given to me, even if just a little, for others." John lived in a one-story house on the outskirts of the village. Its fairly spacious yard had a few mango trees and a small vegetable patch. Due to the size of the property, he'd hire local women as housekeepers for cleaning and meal preparation. About a year ago, he had hired Achebe, an African woman in her early 20s. Achebe looked to be in her early 20s. She approached John warmly, speaking fluent English. Her smile was incredibly bright, and she worked diligently, making John feel his spirits lift whenever he saw her. Initially, their relationship was strictly employer-employee, but over time, they grew as close as family. Achebe, too, called John Mr. Harrison, and meticulously cared for the house and his meals. Above all, she had a habit of expressing gratitude and joy in everything. For instance, when John returned from grocery shopping, she would greet him with a radiant smile, saying, "You worked hard today, Mr. Harrison. Let me know if you need anything else." In those moments, John felt a warmth bloom in a long-dormant part of his heart. When they were alone in the house, they would share stories of their pasts. Achebe had lost her family when she was young and lived with distant relatives. She had escaped that situation and drifted around the outskirts of Addis Ababa, searching for work, until an acquaintance introduced her to John, and she became his housekeeper. John, in turn, calmly recounted the death of his wife in America and his subsequent journey to Africa. As they learned about each other's scars and pain, they found comfort in each other's presence. Though they came from different backgrounds, these two, who knew loneliness and sorrow, shared a deeper understanding. Then, one day, an unexpected incident occurred. Rumors circulated that a gang linked to local criminals was attempting small-scale kidnappings around the village, often targeting foreigners or women connected to foreigners. John, worried, warned Achebe not to go out alone late at night, but she routinely visited the village market for groceries. One late evening, Achebe went out, saying she was going to the market. Usually, she returned early, but that night, she didn't come back even as it grew late. Worried, John tried calling her, but her phone was off. A sense of dread washed over him. He immediately contacted the village chief, who had connections with local police officers, and urgently requested help. They began a search, and soon, word came that Achebe had been seized by armed assailants in a small alley on the village outskirts. Rushing to the scene with the police, John gathered witness testimonies and searched the area. Fortunately, thanks to the swift action of the police and villagers, the culprits were surrounded. In the chaotic situation, John, rather than intervening directly, coordinated support by quickly managing communications from behind the scenes. Ultimately, the criminals were arrested by the police, and Achebe, trembling in a dark alley, was rescued safely, her face streaked with tears. She ran to John and threw her arms around him. In that moment, John felt a surge of protectiveness and a powerful emotional upheaval, a realization that he had found someone he never wanted to lose again. Back home, Achebe couldn't calm down for a long time. Though always cheerful, she was deeply shaken by the immense fear she had experienced, and her trembling wouldn't stop. John covered her with a blanket, brought her hot tea, and sat beside her, comforting her. After a while, Achebe, now calmer, spoke in a tearful voice. "Mr. Harrison, the truth is, I've been in love with you." The word, love, confessed by her, came as a profound shock to John. He had felt affection for her as a close person, but he found it difficult to admit, even to himself, that it was romantic love. Considering the age difference, race, and societal views, it was too unconventional. But Achebe pleaded again. "Please, accept me as your wife. I don't think I can live without you, Mr. Harrison." Her eyes were filled with sincerity and desperation. John couldn't give an answer easily. Since losing his wife, he had never dreamed of marriage or romance again, nor had he ever imagined a relationship with such a young woman. But the time and memories he had built in this land for 10 years. And above all, the acute feeling from this recent incident, "I want to protect this person," shook him. After several days of contemplation, John confessed honestly to Achebe, "I think I like you too. As a person, as a woman, but I'm old, and I don't know what difficulties we might face. Still, if you're prepared to overcome all that, I want to cherish you with all my heart." At these words, Achebe burst into tears of joy. John, meanwhile, tried to soothe the anxiety lingering in a corner of his heart. The question, "Is this the right choice? Can I truly make her happy?" followed him to the very end. A small wedding, a simple fusion of Ethiopian and American customs, was held at the village church. The ceremony, in a quaint white chapel, was primarily organized by friends of John and Achebe, a few family members who flew in from the United States, local Ethiopian friends, and acquaintances from his volunteer work filled the small church, making it quite lively. Achebe, the bride, wore an exquisite combination of a dignified traditional Ethiopian garment and a wedding dress. Underneath a white lace dress, she wore fabric embroidered with traditional Ethiopian patterns, and a small floral crown adorned her head. John, the groom, was dapper in a tailored suit, complemented by a scarf with traditional Ethiopian motifs he'd had made at a tailor shop in Addis Ababa. During the wedding, villagers shared stories of their past journeys, filled with laughter and tears. John's American family, though initially surprised, blessed his new life in his later years. He had explained the situation to his son and daughter, and though shocked, they eventually accepted it, thinking, "If Dad is happy." Finally, when the two said, "We will be together," their hearts pounded. Achebe, too, trembled with overwhelming emotion. They wept, holding each other tightly. After the wedding, the two began their married life in the same house. Though newlyweds, their significant age difference drew cautious glances from those around them. However, the couple themselves found happiness in the process of adjusting to each other. Achebe still prepared breakfast with a bright smile, and John, after finishing his business and volunteer work, would return home to warm conversations with her. Gradually, their affection as a married couple deepened, and John rediscovered a sense of excitement he hadn't felt in a long time. When they looked at each other in bed, their gazes were filled with an affection that made their age difference seem irrelevant. One day, during their life together, Achebe announced she was pregnant. John felt a mixture of surprise and joy. He had experience raising children, but there was also a sense of burden, knowing he'd have to care for a baby again in his old age. Nevertheless, watching his wife's belly gradually grow, he felt a hope that life was beginning anew once more. Their first child was a healthy baby boy. They gave him both an Ethiopian name, meaning God's grace, and an American first name. Next, a daughter was born, followed by another daughter, making a total of 3 children. When the young children ran around the house, their laughter filling the air, John's heart felt immeasurably full. The house was now a microcosm of a multicultural family. The children were exposed to Amharic, the local language, and English, which they spoke with their father. American comfort foods like pancakes or scrambled eggs sometimes appeared on the breakfast table, as did injera, the traditional Ethiopian bread, and stew. The children, rather than being confused, seemed to enjoy the diverse cultures. Outside, they blended in as locals, but sometimes they sensed negative stares from people who noticed their skin color or mixed heritage. John's acquaintances and family who visited from the US were also initially unfamiliar with the situation. But whenever John and Achebe faced such prejudice, they would tell their children, "If we become stronger and live well, those perceptions will change." The children, too, grew up affirming their identities and roots, helping those around them. John taught his children about American culture and values while also guiding them to respect Ethiopia's unique history and traditions. His wife, Achebe, also frequently visited local schools and participated in community activities with the children to help them adapt well to local society. They were a family that embodied how to naturally blend 2 different worlds. John was usually the first to wake up at dawn, to ensure his wife wasn't too tired. He, now a husband, would help with cooking and cleaning. When the children woke up, still drowsy, he would playfully dance them awake to traditional music playing on the radio. Under the mango trees in the backyard, the 3 children would gather, building houses with twigs or picking fruit to share. Achebe taught them, "These are precious resources of our land. Let's use only what we need and cherish them." In the evenings, after a busy day, John and his wife sometimes enjoyed short dates at a village cafe. After putting the children to bed, they had quiet time for themselves. Sometimes they learned about each other's cultures, watching American movies together or listening to Ethiopian folk songs and dancing. In the bedroom, sweet whispers flowed between them, making the age difference seem irrelevant. "I never thought I'd feel such passion again," John would say with a shy smile. Achebe would blush and reply, "My heart pounded from the first moment I saw you, Mr. Harrison." The couple reaffirmed their bond daily through these small expressions of affection and physical closeness. The process of raising 3 children, including the second and third born after their marriage, wasn't easy, but even amidst hardship, Achebe and John never lost their smiles. In fact, as the children grew and the house became livelier, John felt the vibrant energy of a family he had long forgotten. Amidst all this, Achebe became pregnant with their 4th child. Both were more joyful than surprised. Having already successfully raised 3 children, they were prepared to welcome a 4th. "I really need to live diligently. I'm over 60, but I still have stamina and a youthful spirit," John would say laughingly to those around him, while Achebe would smile, caressing her belly. "No matter how hard it is, I'm happy because a new life is coming to enrich our family." With each new child, they felt a greater sense of responsibility and, simultaneously, greater joy. They cared for each other deeply, building a bond as strong as any family. John began to contribute even more actively to the local community. As his business thrived, he donated a portion of his profits for scholarships for village children and collaborated with the local hospital to provide medical supplies and equipment. The villagers now fully accepted John as one of their own, and he, his wife, and their children were a source of pride for their neighbors. Time passed, and the children grew into elementary and middle school age, naturally observing their father's business and volunteer work. "When we grow up, we want to be like Dad and help the people here," they'd say, sharing their dreams, which brought immense joy to John and Achebe. However, The world wasn't always peaceful. Some people still showed prejudice against mixed-race individuals or looked askance at an older father and a young mother. Sometimes, children at school would ask, "Why does your dad look like your grandpa?" But John and Achebe remained steadfast. Everyone is born and lives in different circumstances and with different appearances. We acknowledge that and cherish our lives even more. Their parents' words became a strong pillar of support for the children. Instead of being hurt by such comments, the children responded positively, saying, "Our family is special because we love each other so much." As his children grew, one by one, John felt a deep sense of pride and a warm smile spread across his face. It was another blessing in the latter part of his life, and he felt renewed gratitude for the devoted love his wife, Achebe, had shown him. His first 3 children, and the 4th who followed, grew up showing talents in various fields like arts, science, sports, and community service. The eldest son developed his dream while learning soccer in the village, and the eldest daughter loved to draw. The second daughter loved nature and animals, showing interest in agriculture and environmental issues, while the youngest, growing quickly, chased after their siblings, filling the house with laughter every day. John, conscious of his age, resolved, "I must support my children as much as I can." At the same time, he never stopped his volunteer work for the village and Ethiopia. His wife, Achebe, actively collaborated in the process of gradually expanding infrastructure in cooperation with international aid organizations. She led local women's groups, taking the initiative to provide job and educational opportunities for women from poor families. Though they came from different backgrounds, they were now recognized as leaders who worked together for everyone. A local newspaper even featured their story under the headline, "Village Development Born from the Love of an American and an Ethiopian." Many years had passed, but John and Achebe's affection had not waned. Of course, there were many times they felt exhausted from caring for the children and engaging in business and volunteer work. But whenever that happened, they would take even a short moment to focus on each other. When their wedding anniversary approached, Achebe would use money she had carefully saved to prepare a surprise gift for her husband. Last year, she gave him a small handicraft engraved with the words, "Our love does not age." John, overcome with emotion, embraced his wife and whispered, "I will try even harder for you." When John recalled the day his wife first confessed her love, his heart still felt full. "That day, you ran to me, crying, and said, 'Marry me. You were the one who brought me back to life when I was frozen.'" He would express his gratitude. Achebe would smile and reply, "Of course, you are eternal gratitude and love itself to me." Sometimes, as if to confirm that their passion as a couple hadn't faded, they would hold each other tightly late at night and talk for a long time. Even on days when they were exhausted, before falling asleep, they would share stories of their day in bed, laughing together or comforting each other. Sometimes, just the warmth transmitted from their fingertips gave them the strength to live on. One sunny afternoon, the whole family gathered in the yard to plant a tree. The children each held shovels and dug into the earth, while John and Achebe planted a sapling and watered it. Soon, the warm sunlight would nurture that tree. The children ran around happily, talking about their future dreams. "Dad, I want to start a business too and make this area more prosperous," the eldest son exclaimed, full of ambition. "I want to hold a wonderful art exhibition so more people learn about this place," the eldest daughter said with a bright smile. The second daughter spoke with hope. "If I develop agricultural technology, Dad will definitely help me." "Right," and the youngest, in a still childish voice, made a charmingly profound statement, "I just want to live an awesome life like Mom and Dad." John and Achebe stood side by side, holding their soil-covered hands. Their hands were of different colors, but they held the same warmth of love and hope. "We've overcome so much, and we'll continue to do so." John's voice was filled with confidence and warmth. His wife leaned gently on his shoulder and replied, "With you and our children, every day feels like a miracle to me." Some might look at this family and think, they must face many difficulties. But this family dreams bigger dreams and lives a greater love. No loneliness could ever envelop them now, having shared their hearts and taken root together in the African soil. They were creating true happiness that transcended age and race. And just as the tree they planted would sprout and grow, the family continued their steadfast love today, cherishing the hope that this land, and the world, would one day embrace differences not as discrimination, but as diversity.